Hello, Hidden Hermit here. Let's go back in time to Sagittarius season, have a look at a Ten of Wands. This is the Ten of Wands from the She-Wolfe Tarot. A great deck, one of my favourites, certainly one of the best decks I bought in the last year. But yeah, this is really interesting. So the Ten of Wands, I always call the Ten of Wands the just a little further card. It is, it's a number 10. It's right at the end of the suit of wands there. So you're thinking about finishing a cycle and completing something. Although these wands have been, they're a burden. They're a burden for this poor chap or chapess who's trying to get back to his homestead. And he's nearly there. He's almost done it. The She-Wolfe Tarot has a much different vibe to it. It can be said. And you can clearly see that in how it's portrayed. Now, the She-Wolfe Tarot is one of those decks that mixes the top deck and the Waite-Smith quite well. And it was also, there is a focus with the She-Wolfe for the psychological side of tarot readings for a lot of the time, I would suggest, as well as the idea of working with your shadow, doing some shadow work, dredging up all the dark things inside you and facing them as you should. Before I dive into this, I will mention the top deck in a little moment. The top deck does indeed title it as Oppression, and this is mostly born from the fact that Sagittarius is being visited by Saturn. Saturn, well, he's not in his detriment or fall in Sagittarius, but if you think about that Sagittarian vibe of moving forward, of lofty ideals, higher study, philosophy, the law, etc., and then Saturn comes along and sort of dampens that spirit. Sagittarius is the mutable fire sign. Fire signs in general, I would have thought, aren't particularly happy when Saturn rocks up. I mean, he is in his detriment in Leo, and he's in his fall in Aries. So you're going to be trining that with the Sagittarian energy. So I think you do get a little bit of a nasty taste in your mouth when Saturn meets Sagittarius. Now, some of the keywords associated with the Ten of Wands in the She-Wolfe, just to sort of go with the oppression vibe, there's suppression and repression, which I think is fascinating. I think it's incredibly fascinating because there's a poem in there somewhere, surely, with all these nasty words with lots of S's in them. But let's have a look at this card. It is fascinating. So, first of all, you can see Saturn there looking quite splendid, and there is a separating line here. Now, the black and the white, if you ask me, is to show the light and the dark sides of our nature, and indeed that is mirrored by the naked lady, which there are many naked ladies in the She-Wolfe, which I highly approve of. The naked lady is confronting her shadow side, or is she? Now, there is a dividing line between these things, and I think the Ten of Wands and the She-Wolfe is asking you to actually not just confront your shadow side, but, well, confront is one thing, but actually take it on. There is this idea in the book that comes with the She-Wolfe that you've been put yourself in a cage. Now, that's not something I've actually come across with many Ten of Wands. However, when you look at the Waite-Smith, there is a sort of a cage-like vibe going on here, and this dude's got his head down in it. So it's almost like a self-imposed cage. His burden is his cage, and he's not looking anywhere else, to be perfectly fair. The cage theme, I would suggest, is also being mirrored in the top deck. You've got this crisscrossing lines with the ninth and the 10th wand. They're kind of sort of superimposed on it. So, I mean, what does this mean? What is the She-Wolfe trying to tell us? So not only is Saturn burdening his influence on the vibe of the card, but he's also asking you. Saturn, it does get a bad rap in a lot of modern astrology videos and posts out there, but Saturn's here to teach you a lesson. He's there to impart a little discipline on your life, as well as encourage you to step up with levels of maturity. So I think Saturn's saying, look, it's about time you confronted the dark side of yourself. It's about time that you actually dealt with it as well. Because if you don't, then the burden's going to remain. And, when we're burdened over a long period of time, we get bow-legged and we start to lose feeling in our toes, and it's all bad news. So I think the Ten of Wands and the She-Wolfe is really telling us to take some proactive action, take some responsibility for what we perceive our failings to be. Realize that sometimes a lot of the failings that other people project onto you are not necessarily your responsibility, but you do need to deal with that. And ultimately, you will get to that completion. This is a 10 after all, but this is the final hurdle in the She-Wolfe is kind of suggesting that the hurdles are within you, and you need to step up, take account for yourself, and deal with the dark side. The She-Wolfe comes with a mantra for every card, and the mantra is thus: some of the behaviours and perspectives I've learnt aren't mine, and I shed them to live my truth. That's fascinating, isn't it? It kind of suggests that perhaps the cage was built by other things, other behaviours, other attitudes. We pick up stuff all the time from everywhere else, and we kind of own it in a way. And yet, when we take a step back, you can realize that actually that belief that I held didn't come from me. This attitude that I've got has potentially been borrowed by something else, the collective, popular culture, etc., etc. And we need to face up to those things and, deal with them, discard them. I was going to say something really profound there, but naturally I've forgotten, so I'm probably going to leave it at that to prevent any more umming and ahhing. But fascinating card, lots of dimensions to it, and that is the 10 of Wands from the rather stunning She-Wolfe Tarot. Thanks for watching.